Our chicken is pretty much, it should be almost done. It should take only about 3-4 minutes tops before everything is super brown. The peppers should be browned. The chicken should be, browned. And we're going to put that to the side before it gets dry. Now what we're going to do, some of us have already drained our noodles. We're going to drain our pasta, our penne pasta. And then while we're doing that, who can show me 1 tablespoon measuring cup?
I don't know where I put it, but are we talking about this cup?
Is it 1 tablespoon?
Or one of these?
One of those, but it gotta be 1 tablespoon. Let me see who got it.
1 cup here.
1 tablespoon.
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 Oh, sure. I don't got some. I got teaspoon, tablespoon, 1 tablespoon.
Okay, there we go. Okay, Felicia.
Right.
We got one more for Felicia on the bingo board. Cooking bingo. If anybody is just tuning in, this is Cooking Bingo with Hills in the Kitchen and Just a Brunch of Divas, as well as Empower Styles in the building. Okay, so let's give this point to Felicia on the bingo board. All right, Felicia. You close to getting the bingo. The way your points are aligning, I don't know. We'll see. But anywho, on to the noodles and the chicken. So now that we have, is everybody's skillet big enough to fit the noodles and the chicken? If not, you can put it in maybe like a rice bowl, a rice pot, or a bigger pot so everything can fit. I use a big skillet, so I have this big skillet, right? But then I have this medium-sized one, which would fit perfectly with my chicken and my pasta. I use the eye to realize more chicken over pasta is always better than more pasta over chicken. Okay?
I got my noodles.
Okay, so we're going to mix both together, the noodles and the chicken.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And you just kind of stir the two together so you can get some of that chicken flavor on the pasta. And you can also just kind of get the peppers everywhere. You want all the ingredients with the peppers on almost all the pasta, and then you want the chicken flavor covering your noodles before you even go into making the roster sauce. So now, who has a potato peeler? Anybody?
Hey,
potato peeler?
Hey, Keisha, you just finally joined?
Huh? Nobody got a potato peeler? Anybody have a potato peeler? so after all this is all nice and tossed up, it should look covered, fully covered. The seasoning from the chicken should be on your pasta at this point. The pepper should be evenly distributed on all your pasta. Something like this. I don't know. Hey.
You want my recipe? Oh, go ahead and fix it crazy.
Yes, exactly. It's going down over here. So, we're also playing a game called Cooking Bingo. If you'd like to join in, you can. And it basically consists of finding little things around the house that are cooking oriented. For example, I said a spatula, I said a potato peeler, I said a strainer, things of that nature. So when I call out something, if you find it, you can get your point on the bingo board. Whoever gets the bingo first obviously wins. And that's how the game is going as of right now. So now, does everyone have a saucer kind of pot? Maybe, I would say something of like this size, or maybe smaller. Something basically that will hold that can of coconut milk.
The coconut milk?
Yeah, for the coconut milk.
Am I the only one? Or somebody else coming on too?
Oh no, this part was the cooking part.
Extra name.
Yeah, this part was cooking, right? This was for real. This was for the Rasta sauce. That wasn't a part of Cooking Bingo just yet. I'm gonna let you know when it's a part of Cooking Bingo. All right, so now that y'all got y'all salsa, let's preheat the pot. Make sure the pot is nice and hot. Then we're going to open our coconut milk and pour it in to the pan. I have to use a can opener to open mine, so give me a second.
I don't think mine's gonna be big enough.
I got hella damn Amazon.
Can I do this? Do I gotta fry?
That's girl. Yes, that's the pot that you would usually use for your sauce. If you're making a bigger portion, yeah, you would use that pot.
So pour the coconut milk in the pot?
Yes.
Okay. How much?
The whole can.
How much?
The whole can.
Huh?
Pour the whole can in the pan.
Okay, so I bought two. I bought the can or this one. This one I bought two.
That's fine.
Can.
That's okay. You could pour. So I would say pour about a cup, depending on how much you're making. I would say about a cup each serving.
Okay.
So it should
okay.
Because you want it to be creamy. So you can also, what you can also do is as you cook, pour a little in so you don't over pour.
Okay.
And then I'll show you, I'll explain to you how it's supposed to look as far as consistency, so you understand that whether it's
so
needs
a cup
more.
Per person?
A cup per serving. So a serving will be maybe about a handful of this pasta.
So are you saying per person a cup or per serving? Yeah. So if I was doing like 2 people, I would do like this. 2 cups.
Yes, and then pour it in as you're cooking, because some of the coconut milk is going to absorb into the chicken and the pasta, and then you want it to have a creamy, soupy, but you don't want it to be sticky and dry. You want it to have a creamy coating, because when you boil, it's supposed to just kind of have a rich consistency, which I'll show you guys as we keep going further along in the process.
So what temperature am I putting the stove on?
I would say for the way my stove is set up, I use number 5 initially with olive oil to pan sear. After the chicken is about 5 minutes from being done, I throw in the peppers and let the peppers get all nice and browned and softened up. And then from there, you drain out the excess fluids. You mix it with your pasta. After your pasta has been drained, you mix it with the pasta and coat it with the seasonings and the flavors from the chicken and the peppers. And after that is all said and done, that's when you start working on the sauce. After the sauce is finished, you will pour it over everything. That's where the creamy consistency and stuff come into play. So right now, we're kind of working with just the basics before we even get into the whole roster segment. So we're almost there. We're almost there. So now the portion we're at is our coconut milk should be heating up. It should be on a very, very low temperature so it is not boiling. You don't want it to boil. You just want it to kind of simmer because, you know, milky products start to create a film over top. You don't really want that too much. So we're going to work with this pretty quickly. For those of us who's using the jerk sauce, this is the time where we would start adding the jerk sauce to the coconut milk.
So I'm supposed to be pouring my coconut milk in the pot, right?
Yes.
And how long do I pour?
Yes, you pour it in the pot, and then you let it get warm, nice and warm, to where it's kind of bubbling, but not to the point where it's cooking too fast. You don't want it to develop a film over it. You don't want it to start to burn out. You just want it to simmer while you cook your jerk seasoning, because the seasoning needs time to cook a little bit. It gives it more flavor. It gives it more kick when you just let it simmer for a second. So with that being said, you will do that. If you want to, you can add a little bit of salt right now, or you can wait until the cheese, until the sauce is done and poured all over the chicken and the pasta, just so you can have a better range of taste. But personally, sprinkle a little bit of salt needed after everything is said and done, just in case, because we do use a good amount of seasoning, especially with the jerk seasoning too, on top of everything. So you want to be careful with salt. Alright, so now that is all cooked up. Well, it's simmering. What I like to do, I take a little bit and I taste it to see how hot it is, because I don't like my pasta too hot. I like it just right. And the only way to know that is to gauge it by putting a small bit of, I would say, let me get a measurement for you. I would say 1/4 teaspoon. I'd be like 1/4 teaspoon. That is
a butter.
No, of the jerk seasoning. If you was using jerk seasoning, you would want to go scoop by scoop like that and gauge it that way, opposed to taking a whole spoonful and throwing it in here, because this stuff is really hot. You know what I'm saying? So you want to be mindful of how much you use. So I think that is pretty damn good. I'm not going to go too much more hot, but I am going to bring clips back. Let me put these back. Alright, so now with all that being said, how's everyone's coconut milk looking?
How's what?
How's the coconut milk looking?
It's looking good.
Good. When do you put in the cheese?
You're gonna put in the cheese after you put the sauce over the noodles and the chicken. So how's you want to make sure it's not boiling over.
Okay.
So once it's like simmering and it got a good little boil to it, take it off the stove.
Okay. So my coconut
And as
I got mine on medium too. Okay.
Yeah, it should come to a semi-boil. You want it to like simmer a little bit, but you don't want it to cook out. So once it starts to do too, it will create a great, probably like a tennis-sized ball of bubbles in the middle. Take it off from there because you don't want it to create that film over it. So you take it off from there. Now, after all that is done, bring your pasta and your chicken. Put it over the my stove is on 2. So that's the heat level I have my stove on 2 with the chicken and the pasta. That's aside from the sauce. The sauce pilot. All right. So now, cooking bingo segment. Who has cereal? First person to show me cereal. Cereal. Okay, Keisha.
What to do?
Keisha got it.
What you got? Cereal. I already got. I wasn't ready. I walked away.
Okay, so
I walked away. I wasn't ready.
It's all right. You gotta stay ready. That's the object of the game. You gotta stay ready. All right. So now we're gonna take our roster sauce and pour it over our chicken and pasta. Okay.
Okay.
Now, being that the pot was already on with the chicken and the pasta, it should start to boil in a way. It should start to cook. Don't be afraid. That's okay. It should start to bubble and do things of that nature. So let it bubble a little bit, cook a little bit. Let the coconut seep into the chicken and the pasta. Stir it occasionally. You don't want to stir it too much so you don't wash off the seasoning of the chicken. Just lightly flip it here and there, and then just leave it to basically like simmer in the juice.
So I'm waiting till my coconut milk boil. Am I supposed to be doing something else while I'm making my coconut milk boil?
No. Well, did you cook your chicken and your peppers already? And your pasta?
Oh, I need to cook my pasta right now?
Yeah, cook your pasta and cook your chicken if you haven't already. So don't cook the peppers with the chicken until the chicken is about 10 minutes from being done.
Okay, cook my peppers 10 minutes before my chicken is done.
Yes. everybody's noodles, chicken, and sauce simmering? Is it boiling? Make sure you let me know. Don't let the juices boil out at all. You want to start adding the cheese right before all the sauce boils out. So it will probably take maybe, depending on how high your heat is, you will notice when it starts to boil out, when you almost to no sauce left, and you don't want that. You want to have at least maybe, I would say, a cup of sauce left over your noodles, so it's still creamy. It's still like